Hey guys, this is a reaction to target audience's reaction to A Man Alone. Now, this is, the fourth? No, 1, 2, so 3, 4, like the fifth episode. And I'm not going to worry so much about the number of the episode, but I will, mention the name. And, so they just released the edited version on the YouTube. I watched it. I usually watch it within the first, half hour, if I can, depending on how my day looks. I enjoyed the reaction a lot. Now, it's such a tease, because all I can think of is how much they're probably going to really enjoy, DS9 as a whole, looking back at, by the time they get to the end of the first season, or by the time they really get their, feet wet in, second, third season, whatever. And I hope they really enjoy it. I mean, I hope that anyone that watches Star Trek enjoys it half as much as I have over my life of watching it the first time, reruns, delving into some of the deeper nuances of the character, having discussions about, all the stuff. So I like the fact that they're still, the way they're looking at Dax and Cisco and Bashir, and I saw what they were talking about. And it's funny because some of these things, it's like, man, I've watched the show however many times. Like this episode, I probably have seen 5 to 6 times. And so yeah, I appreciated that camera pan that Alex was talking about as well, where it went from Keiko talking to Rom, and I don't think they've even name dropped Rom. Maybe Quark mentioned my brother Rom, or Nog mentioned my dad Rom, but I don't know if they've even name dropped Rom yet as a character. But when she was talking to him about, not going to the school, she leaves and the camera kind of pans and does a one long shot, goes from there to then staying on the Bajoran guys at Quark's bar, and then he joins in, has a couple, things to say. But I did agree. I was like, oh, that's a really fun kind of cinematic shot. And I agree with a lot of their thoughts on the show. I mean, I've never really stopped to think about it, but I do agree that, DS9, to me, it just feels bigger. It feels like there's so much more space. The camera can be up on the second level of the promenade looking down. You can have pan shots where a character walks away and, the camera stays, in a certain spot, and a static camera shot, but then the person comes around and or either comes towards the camera, goes away from the camera. A lot of things that, you could do on TNG in a corridor or a hallway or a Jeffries tube or something, but for the most part, the camera kind of stays with the characters in the shot, for the most part. And it's a nice kind of break away from the more formulaic television experience of TNG, where things are, you're in the middle of the bridge, or maybe a shot of the turbo lift or the ready room, but it still feels more television for some reason. So yeah, and they're talking about Odo, and Alex was pretty spot on for a number of his guesses as far as Ibodan and Ibudan, however you technically pronounce it. A's and A's, you go back and forth, and but yeah, so I enjoyed their appreciation of that. I love mysteries too, sci-fi mysteries, court drama, all these different scenes, exploration in space. There's so many different scenarios, time travel, time loops. There's so many kind of gimmicks you can play with in sci-fi. So it's nice to see them enjoying it, and I'm just, every episode that I see them watch and that they enjoy, I'm like, I can't wait for them to get to the next episode. So now, I guess we don't see any more till next week, if you're not a Patreon or patron. But either way, I enjoy their edits. Like anyone that does these edited reactions, it's always a shame. I really wish YouTube didn't have to be like that, and that copyright stuff was not the way it was, and that everybody could just put up full reactions. I wish it was that the full reactions were on YouTube, but they were just on later. You know, they would be like a week later would be the full would be the reaction, and then Patreon members would get it like a week or two in advance. Like, I would understand that, but the fact that they have to edit it down because of copyright stuff, like, it just sucks to me. Like, I think you would have YouTube be so much more have so much better content on it if people weren't so worried and scared of having to, like, oh, you know, do a copyright, oh, there's some kind of, oh, there's a little bit of music in it that someone's going to try to claim, oh, there's this scene that, you know, whatever. And then I go to see other channels that will listen to a full album, you know, beginning to end, and, you know, only have one or two breaks in it, and yet they don't get struck by any unless they tried to go to someone and get permission. Whatever. I was watching this producer, and he was checking out Rumors by Fleetwood Mac, and I'm like, how is he not getting any kind of having any issue, you know? And yet everybody else has to, like, make the video be, like, transparent and sometimes flip the footage, and it's so funny to me too. I'm sure you guys have noticed, but, like, I was watching Jen react to she does Seinfeld and Star Trek, and she flips a lot of scenes for whatever reason, and, you know, probably copyright stuff, but it's so funny. The second footage is flipped, I'm like, they don't look right. Like, it's like Jerry's face looks off, Kramer's face looks off, the apartment looks like Bizarro Jerry's apartment now because it's reversed. It's funny how different somebody can look when footage is flipped, you know? Like, it's just really interesting to me. So I wish it didn't have to be like that, but I do get it. So anyway, I enjoyed all the, you know, Keiko stuff. And that's one of the reasons I think DS9 is such a nice show, is because you were able to take characters like O'Brien and Keiko from the Enterprise, put them on DS9, and this is the kind of episode that, like, you really probably wouldn't get on TNG. You know, like, she would get like maybe one or two really decent scenes in a season. And so she, you know, the fact that they're married and it goes to more O'Brien development, that, like, you get to see her more, and she gets fleshed out a little bit more as a character, which is nice. And I think, you know, anyone who's going to be in the show and you're told to believe they're on the station, it doesn't matter if it's Garrick, it doesn't matter if it's Nog, it doesn't matter if it's Jake, anyone who's on the station deserves to get a fair amount of screen time, some backstory. You should care eventually about all these characters. I would say if there's a character that you absolutely don't care about, then it's at the fault of the show. Like, they didn't focus enough on that character to make you care about them, or their backstory wasn't interesting enough, or the actor didn't portray them interestingly enough. Maybe it was the material that was written for their character that they didn't have enough to really sink their teeth into. Like, I've seen the whole show, and I'll say Bashir is, you know, one of my favorite characters in the show. But by this point where they're at, I could understand people being like, oh, and I remember myself, like, early on, like, I think Bashir was probably one of my least favorite characters, especially in the first season, maybe even into the second season. So it just goes to show you that, like, when you really give these characters enough time to dive into backstories, when they start forming relationships with other characters in the show, and you start to build on that it makes them more personable and it makes them more relatable. And as soon as a character becomes relatable and you can kind of either sympathize with it or understand some of their motivation more, to me it changes how you feel about a character for the most part. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see their you know, more of their DS9 reactions, and even for them to get back to TNG and see, you know, what their thoughts are on some later season 6 and 7 episodes. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed my reaction to their reaction. And as always, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. You know, leave some comments in my comment section of, like, when you first saw this episode, some of your thoughts watching it in the last couple of years compared to when you saw it maybe for the first time. Some of your favorite story arcs of some of these characters later on, maybe season 3, 4, 5. If you guys want to talk about that, I mean, open spoiler discussion in these. I'm going to assume most people, I'm not going to try to speak too heavy spoilers in the videos, but if you guys want to talk about stuff in the comment section, feel free. And if you guys comment, I will try to address, you know, as many of the comments as I can in the following video. Or even possibly release a video that just goes into discussion about some of the comments, and have a, you know, a two-way discussion kind of. So, all right, thanks. Catch you next time.